There we go. I see Chase Briscoe, our winner. We will go ahead and bring you in. Congratulations on winning at the track Too Tough to Tame. We'll go ahead and open up the floor for questions. We have several here. We'll start with Pete Iacobelli for the Associated Press. Go ahead, Pete.
Hi, Chase. Congratulations on today, and I'm so sorry for what you're going through. Was there any part of you that did not want to come back here and race Thursday because of what you and your wife went through?
I knew that in the car would probably be the best therapy, I guess you could say, but I didn't know really how my reaction was going to be. And truthfully, even the whole race, I was kind of out of it. For sure, the last 50 laps, just emotionally, I was kind of all over the place. But it was still good. I mean, obviously now it's I'm super glad I came back and raced. But I don't think there was ever a thought of not going racing just because. And that's what we do, and that's the best therapy, at least for me and my family. So there wasn't ever a thought about sitting out, but it certainly was tough. It's probably better that, truthfully, that the race did get postponed to Thursday because we found out Tuesday afternoon. So it honestly was a blessing in disguise that it rained Tuesday, and was able to get a couple days at home and then come down here.
Our next question will go to Jim Utter. Go ahead with your question, Jim.
Congratulations, Chase. I'm just wondering, getting back to racing in general, combined with everything that took place this week, was it better to be around some of your fellow competitors and crew members and such that coming up at this point, it's been a lot of isolation?
Yeah, absolutely. Even when we announced it, just you always hear that racing is family, and I've always seen that from other people whenever they suffer a loss or anything, how the whole community just, really wraps their arms around them. And, I was literally, me and my wife were so humbled by the amount of people that reached out, fellow competitors, crew chiefs, engineers, people in the sport, officials. So many people somehow got my number and told me what they had went through. So, it was just unbelievable to feel that finally. Obviously, I don't wish that upon anybody to have to feel that, but it just shows how good the racing community is, and to come back here today, before the race, everybody coming up to me, and obviously we can't hug, but telling me they're there for me if I need anything. So definitely was good to get back to the track and see the people that really care about me.
Thank you.
Our next question will go to Bob Pockris. Go ahead with your question, Bob.
Yeah, Chase. Kyle said that he thought Samantha was going to reach out to your wife, but wasn't sure if he did. Do you have any idea if they talked?
Yes, Samantha reached out yesterday to my wife, yesterday late afternoon, and it meant a lot. Obviously, Samantha is as close to what my wife can relate to. We, both of our husbands do the same thing, obviously on a little different scale, but they had it even worse than we did. We were able to get pregnant fairly quick, and they've struggled to be able to do that. So it was really good for my wife, Marissa, to be able to talk to Samantha, and I want to thank the Busch family. Obviously, I haven't talked to Kyle, but for Samantha to reach out, she didn't have to do that by any means, and for her to do that and seek out Marissa's number. Marissa doesn't really talk to anybody in the racing world, so for her to be able to find the number definitely meant a lot, and we want to thank the Busch family for that.
And did you think about not telling people just in case you thought the reaction would be too overwhelming for you when you're trying to race?
No, for us, we talked about it, and now, especially that we've announced it, we couldn't imagine not announcing it, just because to have that pent up inside of you and nobody know what you're dealing with. I think it would have been nearly impossible, at least for me personally, to be able to have the support of everybody, and like I was saying earlier, for them to all reach out with open arms, anything we need, and lifting us up and encouragement. I'm glad we did it, and honestly, that was kind of the way we looked at it. It's unfortunate what we were dealt, but we felt like God did it for a reason, and we felt like using our platform to maybe help others through it down the road. That might be what our calling was. So that was why we did it, and then obviously now that it's truly a miracle. That's the only way I can put it. So, it definitely makes more sense now. Still doesn't make it any easier, but definitely makes a lot more sense.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Our next question will go to Dustin Long. Go ahead, Dustin.
Thank you. Chase, you talked about just the last 50 laps, just kind of the emotions. And I'm curious, obviously you're focused on what you're doing, but when you talk about the last 50 laps and the emotions, what were the things that were running through your mind that about the emotions? What was it about? Was it wife, daughter, or what?
Yeah, even at the start of the race, yeah, it was like I was in a whole nother world. It was just weird. I can't even explain it. And then, once we kind of got in a rhythm there, my car wasn't the greatest, so that kind of got me unfocused from, what we were dealing with, and really focused at trying to get the car better. And then once I got to the lead, I just, kind of was sprinkling a little bit, and I was like, man, what if this thing rains out and I'm in the lead? And, I knew Marissa was home watching, both of our families were at home, and just feeling, that weight on my shoulders of, if this happens, it's going to be a big thing for our family. And I'd even told Marissa, Wednesday, like, I'm going to win this thing for you. And, I think we both kind of laughed about it, not really believing it. But, I told her, this could be a huge thing for us to, we just experienced the lowest of lows, and this would be a really, high that we need right now. So, I was just feeling that pressure of trying to put it together. And, I got in a little bit of a rhythm, and then I just kept screwing up, and my car kept getting really tight, and I just kept hitting the wall over and over and over again. And Justin kept getting closer and closer to me, and I just wasn't putting very good laps together. And then Justin got by me, and that caution, saved me, obviously. Then my pit crew did a phenomenal job of getting me back out in the lead. And, I pulled away from Kyle in that restart, and, I knew that I just had to, hit my marks, but I just kept screwing up because I knew Kyle was going to be coming. And then I think with 3 to go, he went to the bottom in 3 and 4 and made up a ton of time on me. So then with 2 to go, I changed my line, and then coming to the white flag, I did it again. I hit the wall off of 4 pretty hard. And, getting into 1, there was no way he was going to drive it any deeper than me. I wasn't going to let it happen. And to be able to drive back around him, and then, he almost got there in 3 and 4. But just feeling that weight on my shoulders, I knew what it would mean to my wife. So I like I said, I just knew that she was watching. I knew emotionally what she's been going through. It's been hard for me, but it's nothing compared to what she feels, just because, it was inside of her, that connection, that motherly bond. So, just trying to do everything I could to be there for my wife. And I'm not the greatest at letting my emotions show and being there. So this is kind of my way of putting it all out there for her.
A couple of quick things, Chase, did you carry anything in the car today of any significance because of what happened? And have you had a text exchange or anything with your wife?
Yeah, no, I didn't carry anything in the car. As soon as I got back, I instantly FaceTimed her, and I was talking to her, and, she's still in, not the best mood, obviously, just because of what happened. So it was definitely, raise her spirits up a little bit, but it's not by any means, swept under the rug. This is still really serious for us, and we're struggling right now. And it kind of works out that, we're close to home. Today was really hard just because I was gone all day. And then, Tuesday when we found out, I was 2 hours away and couldn't get home. So, it doesn't make it any easier, but, definitely is a nice touch.
And one last thing, I'm sorry, is, and you talking about finding out Tuesday, I believe you were just in your motorhome by yourself. Obviously, I'm sure you're spending time talking with her and going through that. But once the connection went away, what was that like with you? I mean, what do you do when you're by yourself? There's nobody there at that time on Tuesday.
Yeah, that was probably the toughest thing, is just, I was on FaceTime with her when we found out, and then, to see her face, and then, for me not to be able to be there and try to comfort her, that was really hard for me personally, just trying to, figure out how I can, be there for her. And I tried to, put on a tough face and, try to keep her, spirits high. And, then she finally got home, and my family had just so happened to be in town. And once I knew, when she walked in our house and my parents were there to give her a hug and everything, that's finally kind of when I broke down, just because I knew somebody was finally there for her. But it was really hard Tuesday, especially, we're just sitting in the rain, and I'm wanting to leave, but I know I can't leave. And it was definitely tough Tuesday. And then to get home Tuesday was probably the toughest, just because we'd been, almost 8 hours apart from each other since we found out. And, yesterday was good for us. And then today to have to leave and be gone. And, the rain delay, we were worried it wasn't even going to happen until 8 or 10 o'clock tonight. luckily we got kind of going earlier so I can get home earlier.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Our next question will come from Justin Schuler. Go ahead, Justin.
Chase, congratulations. Two questions. What does Chase do to focus when you have so much going through your mind, especially in those closing laps, and on top of that, having to hold off someone like Kyle Busch? And then your second win for this season, obviously now this win coming off of a 10-week break. But what does that do for your goals for the rest of this year?
Yeah, honestly, God was driving the car, man. The last 8 or 9 laps, I was emotionally a wreck all over the place. I don't even really remember it, to be honest with you. And yeah, I mean, getting a win is definitely nice, especially after a 2-month break. And at the start of the race, I didn't think we were that good, truthfully, and we just kept continually making it better. Richard did a really good job of just listening to what I needed, and we, every run we got better and better. I knew we would kind of need a long run to be good, but yeah, to get a win, that statement I said earlier in the year to now have, I think, 2 wins out of 5 races, that certainly helps that cause. And to beat Kyle Busch is, a big statement. Obviously, he had to go to the back, but there at the end, he started right there beside us, and we were able to beat him heads up. And that means more than anything to me on a personal side, to be able to beat the best at Darlington, where he's unbelievable. Certainly a big deal for my confidence.
Our next question will come from Mark Garrow. Go ahead, Mark.
Chase, you sort of answered part of my question there just a second ago, but beating Kyle Busch, going fender to fender, crashing doors, bouncing off the wall on the last lap, is that kind of like the Hollywood way, that if you had to picture you beating Kyle Busch for the first time, that's the way it would be?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It, like I was saying earlier, it's a miracle, first and foremost, and just Kyle is so good at what he does, especially in the Xfinity Series. At Darlington, he's going to be tough to beat at Charlotte. But me and Boswell were talking just this week about how if we do our job, we feel like we're just as good as anybody that comes to the series, no matter it's from the upper series or whatever. When we hit it, feel like we're really good. And, Kyle was probably a little bit better than us, and having that track position kind of helped. But even on that long run, in stage 2, we were, I think, he was probably toying with us a little bit, but we were able to match his lap time in traffic. So I knew we were good. If he doesn't have that penalty, it's hard to say. I probably don't beat him heads up. But to be able to start, on the front row, and, honestly, I thought I was going to lose the race on that restart just because Kyle was pushing Allgaier so good. But yeah, to beat Kyle in anything, whether it's a truck, an Xfinity car, Cup car, heck, even a go-kart, I mean, you've done something because he's that good. I mean, he's one of the best of all time. So to be able to beat him is nice. It's nice to beat him once, but we want to beat him more than once. We want to do it consistently. So that's what we're trying to do at Charlotte next week.
Thank you.
Next question will come from Lee Spencer. Go ahead, Lee. We cannot hear you, Lee. We will come back to you. We're going to go next to Stephen Conley. Go ahead, Steve.
Chase, congratulations. But I got to ask, with everything that was going on in your mindset prior to the race, coming off of a 10-week layoff, getting back in the car for the first time, how tentative were you early in that race? And when did you realize, okay, I've got the car that I can do this, I can get to the front and keep it there?
Yeah, the first lap was pretty chaotic. Just you had different experienced guys, where they were starting, some guys making their first start at Darlington. So just, honestly, I was the most nervous I think I've ever been in the race car. It took me back to the first time I ever even got in a stock car, just feeling those nerves. What's this thing going to do? Like I was saying earlier, my head wasn't really 100% there. And it was definitely tough. And even physically, it was way harder than I remember it being. My ribs were killing me the first run. And, my arms are really sore right now just because we haven't done it for so long and kind of fell out of that race shape. And it was way hotter than I remember it being. And it really wasn't even that hot out today. So definitely getting back in the race car was different. I'm glad we were back, obviously. But yeah, it definitely was weird. I thought it was going to be more just kind of like riding a bike, but probably some of that is just Darlington and how tough this place is and how different it is from everywhere else we go. I'm sure Charlotte would be a little bit easier to just unload and go for the first race back after 2.5 months. But, I thought the field did a really good job of, that first run even. Truthfully, I thought we would all wreck in turn 1, and we did a really good job as a field of, kind of figuring it out and managing all.
And does it add to it knowing that to hold off Kyle Busch even after he's had 2 full races in the Cup Series under his belt?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge advantage for him to and even at the start of the race, perfect example. Obviously, we know he's going to drive through the field just being who he is and where he started, but, he's got, 600 miles around here already. So that's a huge benefit to be able to have those amount of laps. And, he's just sharper than all of us, physically, mentally, just figuring out what he needs in his race car. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, gratifying to beat Kyle, anytime. But, when he had a little bit of an advantage, it definitely makes it nice. And, hopefully this shows, like that statement I was saying earlier, I feel like if we can keep doing this and I continue to learn, hopefully it shows that I'm ready to potentially move up.
Thanks, Chase.
Before we go back to the floor, Lee Spencer texted me her question. She's asking, with everything that you've experienced in the last week, when will it truly set in that you beat Kyle Busch?
Honestly, I feel like it already has in a sense. I was, bawling my eyes out. The last quarter of a lap, once I knew I beat him off of 4 and all the way on the post lap, the cool down lap. But, just honestly, the last 6, 7 laps, looking up in my mirror and seeing Kyle, it was just like, it was a Hollywood story. I knew, I just had a feeling it was going to come down to me and him. I didn't realize it was going to be as close as it was, but I just, I had a feeling that, it was just meant to be. And I wasn't 100% sure I was going to beat him, especially as it got down to 2 to go. But, I had a peace about it. And, whatever happened. I was going to be okay with it. But, it was definitely, funny and ironic how it all worked out, with all the circumstances for sure.
Okay, we're going to take one more question from the floor, and that will go to Gavin Doe. Go ahead, Gavin.
Thank you, Matt. Congrats on the win, Chase. But I also wanted to ask you a couple questions here. Did you ever do some practice within iRacing beforehand, with the NASCAR Pro Invitational Series, during these like filler weeks, to say at least, before, everybody got back to racing? Did you ever do any practices upon Darlington to understand the characteristics of the track?
I ran the NASCAR races on iRacing, but I didn't do anything at Darlington. I just watched video and SMT like I normally do. I didn't do any iRacing stuff this week. Truthfully, kind of been burned out of it just because we've been doing it so much lately. So I didn't do any of the iRacing stuff this week. But typically I do try to get on there and run at least a race at whatever track we're coming up to. But this week I've been kind of burnt out of iRacing. We've just been doing it 24/7, and I just kind of needed a break. So I took a break and just did my normal video and SMT stuff.
And, you noted that, your car was tighter in the long run. Everybody was trying to catch you. Justin Allgaier had a really good long run car, and that late caution came into play. And earlier in the race, Justin Allgaier had some wheel spin on the restart, and that cost him a lot of track position. Were you ever concerned about that essence of wheel spin, getting on the throttle too quickly when it came to that final restart?
I was more worried just about starting on the outside. Truthfully, almost every start I started on the inside, which is typically a disadvantage at Darlington. Noah gave me a really good push. I think it was the 50 to go or whatever restart that was. And the last start, I literally contemplated in my head back and forth. And, I knew Kyle is typically one of the best at pushing. But I knew Cindric was going to be behind me in a Ford, and I knew that he was going to do everything he could. He's one of my best friends, so I knew he was going to push for all it was worth. So, me and my spotter talked about it back and forth, and his gut told him the top. And truthfully, my gut kind of told me the bottom, but I went with the top, and it ended up working out.
Thank you.
Well, Chase, congratulations on the win, and thanks for putting on a great show. Good luck going forward next week at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Thank you.
Take care now.
Thanks, Chase.
Thank you, guys.
We have